The path exists, but can you see it? Now, whatever you thought about when you heard that, whatever goal you have, there's no doubt sort of two sides to this. And trying not to be too corny, but having to use a very corny example, it is like that story of the two wolves inside fighting. That on the one side is the one that believes you're going to get where you want, that is determined and brave and motivated and really willing to do it all. But on the other side, it's the opposite. It's one that is full of doubts and fear and is not motivated and overall does not want to continue even searching for this path. It doesn't believe this path exists. And so a lot of people, perhaps you, are always in this battle between I want it and I believe, but I don't know if I'm not sure, I don't know if I can get there, so it's between belief and unbelief. But what I'm going to kind of talk about here today is how one of these really is false, and that is the second, because if you think about any goal, and we can look at the past that you've strived to achieve and that you've achieved, you have never, and I'd love to be proven wrong here, but you have never strived for something that you didn't believe could be possible. It doesn't matter if you had a little belief or a lot of belief, but you always believed that it would be possible. Because if you think about it, tell me one goal you strive for that you generally didn't believe at all, that you felt was going to be impossible to achieve. You will not be able to think of such an example. And in this, it shows us, going deeper into it, something that I believe it's much more powerful than just the surface level of be motivated and strive for it, because everyone knows that. But it shows us that this belief is not founded on nothing. It is not unrealistic, because if I ask you right now, think of where you are, the goal you're striving for, imagine yourself there, you can likely imagine yourself there and it wouldn't be that unrealistic. It wouldn't be crazy. It wouldn't be like winning the lottery 2 times in a row. It would be much more realistic. You can probably think of people similar to you, not smarter, not stronger, not much anything more, that have gotten a similar goal. And so if we look at it this way, and we see I believe, and it seems somewhat realistic to get there, then that to me shows me that there is a path to get there. There is, amongst almost infinite possibilities you can take, at least one of them that will move you and get you to that point in the future where you get what you want. And I don't think this is something we should overlook, because I say at least one, but obviously there's many more, but the sheer possibility of that reality, that it is, in a lot of ways, if you take the right steps, you find that path becomes reality, shows that not only are you justified in having this belief, but that it is more than possible to get there. And when we look at things this way, it stops being about what a lot of people preach nowadays, where they make it seem as if you need some heroic effort to carve this path and it's all you and your intention and your plan. But I don't think it is like that at all. Sure, heroic efforts will be needed at times and you'll need to put a lot of effort at times, but it is not so much that you are carving this path and making it sort of yourself, but that you're finding what was always there for you to find. And I want to show you here, and I'm going to play on the screen a study that was done. Perhaps you've seen this, very old, but where they had people and they played them a clip, or I don't even know if they were live, and they told them, count how many passes the players make with the white ball or the black ball. And there'll be 2 balls floating around. So the people were so focused on how many passes were being done that they didn't realize that a guy dressed in a gorilla suit passed right in front of them. And then people would tell them, like, oh, but did you see the guy in the gorilla suit? They'd be like, what? Are you crazy? That was nothing like that there. But then we see the clip after, and it is there. And the reason why they didn't see it, and the reason perhaps why you're not seeing what you should be seeing right now, is because you're not really looking for it. Because you will only find what you look for. Proven here, proven in many other instances. And to our demise, unfortunately, this is why a lot of times if one tries to do such a serious plan, and that you really go into detail and you plan all the details and you feel in control and you feel like it has to go this way, you end up getting much further from there than if you had planned nothing at all. Because looking for your way of doing things, you, number one, fail to realize that perhaps your way of doing things is not the ideal, that honestly, it's not going to be. If you try to plan from the beginning to the end, it's not going to be. And second of all, you do not see better opportunities in the true sort of leverages to get where you want, they will pass right by you. Like the guy in the in the monkey suit passed right by these people and they didn't see it because we're focusing on the wrong thing. Now, with that said, I think it does lead us to a problem here, because you may think right away where it's like, oh, so am I saying that you should just be carefree and just do whatever you want and go about things? That's not what I'm saying. Of course not. But what I'm saying here is that, and I'm going to share my screen with you because I think it's much easier to visualize it. We're here on Photoshop, so I'm going to show you here. Imagine this white line here is where you stand right now in time. And what I'm going to show you now, this is sort of the path you took to now. Ups, downs, whatever happened, happened. Looking at the past. And it's easy when looking back to connect these dots of what happened, how one thing led to the other, a lot of times positively, and how decisions that at the time you couldn't predict led to now. However, if we think about it, we can also display it here, and let me just lower a bit the opacity of this. We can see all the other possible paths that you could have taken that you didn't. The job you didn't take instead of this one, the travel you took instead of the other one, the regrets you have, the things you should have done and didn't do, all of that. And you can see how they would have changed the trajectory of your life until now. The problem then becomes, and I'm just going to create a new layer here, when looking at the future. Because if I look at the future, I'm just going to change the color here, and let's say I want to go here in the future, this point right here, the X. That's my goal, I'm looking at the mountain, that's the summit that I want to reach. And so what a lot of people try, and that's kind of, what we're sort of not taught, but what most people talk about, is that I should essentially, before I begin, just create this path in my mind and be like, okay, the path's gonna, a lot of ways, I'm gonna even do how we a lot of times think, it's gonna be like this, straight line from where I am now to there. But if you think about even using this example here of climbing a mountain, especially if it's one that is not that famous or that known, you would never expect to go from where you are to the top in a straight line. That would be absolutely insane. It wouldn't be possible. You'd have to left, right, up, down, around, until you eventually get to it. And so by even attempting such a thing from the beginning, you set yourself up to fail. And that's when a lot of times you attempt this way, you don't see things how you want it to be, and then you start losing belief. And you start listening to the other side, and you start really, in a lot of ways, being like, maybe I was crazy. Maybe I shouldn't have strived for this. Maybe I should have listened to everyone else and what they told me, which was right, but it wasn't right. It's because, again, if you do feel like you want to climb, quote unquote, this mountain, there's something behind there, something that cannot be fully explained by logic and by planning and by writing. Because there's much more to life beyond what we can observe and what we can explain. So if there's this calling that you have for these things, and it seems realistic, it should not be ignored. Because if you go about listening to what just everyone says, then what's going to happen is that you're always going to be waiting for the stars to align to essentially get to a point where you could see that you do a straight line. So let's say if you're finishing school, you'd think like, oh, well, I could do it now, but maybe I'll finish school and then I'll do it after. I'll take the year off after. And then that time comes and you're like, well, but now I don't have money, so maybe I'll work a bit and then I save a bit of money and then I do it. And then you save a bit and you're like, oh, but it's a bit too few. Maybe I'll save more. Maybe you save much more and then you're like, oh, but maybe now I should buy a house. And then and you can do this until you're 6 feet under and you've never done anything. And you're just delaying, because what we have to realize is that from the point, and I'm going to like this, that you now stand at here, right here, you cannot connect dots looking forward. It is impossible. There's too many things you don't control, that you don't understand yet, that is just beyond all of our understanding. You can connect them looking back, of course, but not looking forward. And because of that, what we have to do, as I see it, a much better approach is to put your aim and your focus, as the experiment was done, where you want to go, let's say in the summit of the mountain, and then you allow things to flow. You do what you have to do. You go about things, but you don't restrict yourself to plans that probably are not going to work, that you have no reason to believe that are going to work just because someone said that's as no proof of that, or because you felt like someone told you to do a plan, now you kind of do what you know? Of course not. Again, obviously, there has to be structure, there has to be effort, there has to be all of these things. But the problem is that the more one tries to impose that, especially in the beginning, the less results you're going to have, because you are going to be missing the true opportunities to get you to make the progress that you should be making. An example I have here from my life from many years ago is that I remember when I was in high school, one day I remember watching a YouTube video of a guy that was a concert photographer. And I thought like, wow, that is really cool. It would be really cool to do that, but I don't have a camera. I have no idea how this would even be attempted. So the first reaction could be like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, go take a photography course and then work your way up. But perhaps in my naivety of being young, I just decided I'll buy a camera and then I'll kind of go for it somehow. So what I did is bought the camera, learned kind of the basics, messaged some people that were playing in some bars around that no one cares about, took some pics, built a portfolio that way, and then, of course, luck plays a part here, sent that to all the people that will get passes to the concerts and the festivals, and some of them were short staffed, so they not hired me because I wasn't paid, but I ended up doing that work, and I'm going to put some pics here on the screen. But again, if I try to plan all of that beforehand, it wouldn't work. If I asked you to think about the best things that happened in your life, whether that was career-wise, but regardless of what it was, a lot of them you're going to tell me that you didn't plan for them. You couldn't, it would have been impossible to predict them. You just took the step. A lot of times you took the risk, and that was that. But again, this is also not to say that that step is always going to be the being more disciplined and more focused, and these things that a lot of people kind of paint out to be the solution to human potential or whatever it may be. I do believe that God or the universe or whatever you want, you believe here, will call you to do the things you have to do. And a lot of times, yeah, perhaps if you're lazy, that thing will be to be focused. But if you're rich, perhaps it's going to be to give everything away. You'll be called to be more brave, to be more selfless, and to overall, a lot of times, put yourself in situations that feel scary, that feel that you're not comfortable in, that you would like to avoid, but that deep down you know are the right ones to do. And I feel like for one to really get in contact with that, it's not about writing your plan right now and trying to go about things that way. Sure, plan along the way and do things along the way, but focus on where you want to go and then allow yourself, the parts of you that a lot of times you're not in control of, to find the right opportunities. Because you know it is possible. You know you are capable of doing it, but you have to allow these things to happen, and in a lot of ways to let go a bit of control. It's like when you're going downhill on a bike too fast, you can't be planning, you just gotta be there doing. And when you are doing, you're fully present in the moment, and somehow, some way, most times, you get to the end fine. The same is true here.